In this video today, I'm going to further enhance the image from a previous video by removing the color cast and more. What is happening, people? My name is Gorav and I'm a travel and a wedding photographer based in Birmingham, England. If you haven't seen my previous video, I would highly recommend you check that out because I go through my step-by-step process of how I enhanced a photo of mine that was WhatsApped to me from looking like this to this. With that said, we're going to further enhance that same image by removing the color cast and making some other minor adjustments. So let's just take a look at that. So here we are in Adobe Photoshop and we are actually looking at the enhanced version of the image that we created in my previous video. And again, if you haven't seen that video, I'll leave a link in the description below. Do check that out. Now there's a couple of reasons why old images end up looking like this. It's either it was captured incorrectly, as in the white balance was incorrect, or it has deteriorated over time due to the condition it was kept in. And the other reason is old images do tend to have a color cast on them due to the chemical process that was used. Maybe it wasn't fixed properly in the solution at the time of processing. Anyway, we're going to attempt to fix all that. One of the ways I'm going to show you is very simple. What we want to do is, first of all, we want to duplicate this original layer. Now we can either press Ctrl and J or Command and J on a Mac, or we can just get this layer and drag it on top of this create a new layer icon. We're going to go ahead and do that. It's made a background copy, as you can see. Now what we're going to do is we're going to head over to image and press auto tone. And as you can see, that's done a very good job already. There's a couple of other options. We're going to go through them as well. So we're going to go back to image. We're going to go to auto contrast. That hasn't seemed to make much of a difference. We're going to go back to image and auto color. And this has introduced a little bit of sign in the image, which I don't particularly like. So I'm just going to undo that, Control and Z. And we can call it a day here, and because that looks great. Let's just see the before and after. That's the before. That's the after. As you can see, that's done a phenomenal job already, but this doesn't always work how you want it to. It has worked on this image, so I'm going to show you a method that I have been using. I always try this first before showing you what I'm about to show you, because this leaves everything in the hands of Photoshop and it's an automated process, and sometimes you want a little bit more control yourself. So I'm going to show you another method. It is a bit more complex, but I believe the results are far better. We're going to get rid of this background layer here, and what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this layer again by dragging it on top of create new layer icon. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the filter icon and blur and average. What that does is it blurs all the colors together to an average of what it sees, so it aggregates all the colors into one, and this is the overall tone it sees in the image. But this is the tone that we want to remove. We don't want to keep this tone, so we want the opposite of this tone. So what we're going to do is we're going to head over to image here, adjustments, and invert, and that will give us the opposite color to what we had. Next, what we want to do is we want to head over to the blend modes and click on color, and it still doesn't look great. So what we want to do is we want to bring the fill down slightly, well, about halfway, and let's just get the opacity. We'll bring that down as well. I know it looks a little bit muted, so what we're going to do is we're going to create an adjustment layer by clicking on this icon at the bottom and clicking on curves. So in the curves adjustment layer, as you can see here in the histogram, there's hardly any information. So we're just going to create a point here just to make sure that doesn't move, and create more contrast in the image by dragging this over to the right just before the histogram starts. And that's the before and after. It's important to check the before and after every now and again just to make sure you are not overdoing it. And I can see we're losing a little bit of color in the overall image, so we're going to create another adjustment layer. This time we're going to create hue and saturation, and with the hue, let's just have a little play around with that. That's about right. Let's look at the saturation. We can push the saturation up slightly, and you can see what it's doing to the image. It's bringing back a lot of that color, and the lightness, we can bring that back down as well. Now I can see an imperfection in this image. It's either the way it was captured originally, because the flash seems to be hitting only the top end of the image, or the top part has deteriorated over time. So we're going to fix that, but before we do that, we need to flatten these layers together. We don't want to get rid of all the progress that we've made, because we can actually go back and make adjustments to these. So we're going to hit Control Alt Shift and press E. So what this has done is made a flat copy of everything below this layer. As you can see, I've turned this layer on. I can turn everything off and the image stays the same. Okay, so with the top layer selected and the feathers set to, let's just say 15, we'll go with 15, press enter. I'm just going to make a rough selection of where I think the image is slightly overexposed. Here we go. Again, this is just a rough selection, so let's just complete that by letting go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another curves adjustment layer just to impact this section of the image. So let's just go ahead and do that. And as you can see from the histogram, there's hardly any information in this section. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slowly drag this over. I think I'm happy with that. I don't want to overdo this too much. So let's just go to the before and after. As you can see, I've brought back a lot of faded detail from the top part of the image. Let's just drag it across a little bit more. Let's see what happens. Now that that's done, I'm going to add another hue saturation layer and play around with the tones a little bit. So we're just going to play around with the hue. That's about right. Saturation, that's good. And the lightness, I think I'm happy with that. Once again, let's create a single layer of everything that we've done. So Control, Alt, Shift and E. And there we go, made a single layer of everything below this. Next step, I want to tweak the colors slightly. So let's go to Filter, Camera Raw Filter. I'm going to select Color Mixer. And the overall tone of the image seems to be more on the red side, which I don't quite like. I want it more neutral. So it's generally the yellow and the oranges that impact the skin tones a lot. So under the color mixer with the hues selected, I'm going to demonstrate by making big adjustments. So you can see this is impacting the skin tones quite a lot. And let's just double click that to reset it and try the orange. And that seemed to be impacting the skin tones quite a bit as well. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to tweak these slightly. Let's just move the orange forward slightly and the yellows. And guys, if you're not sure, you can always go to the extreme and zone into where you think it looks best. So for this particular image, I think I'm happy with right about here. Let's just click OK. So before and after. Now you may not be able to see massive improvement, but believe me, it's there. Now one other thing I noticed is a slight shift in color in this sort of area. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get the lasso tool again. I'm going to roughly select this part of the image, go to adjustment layers and hue saturation, and let's see if we can change the color of that to make it fit with everything else. There we go. So that's before, that's after. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than what it was. Now the other thing I've noticed is there's a crack in the top left hand corner of the image. Although I don't want to really modify this image in any way apart from color correction, I think this gives it the appearance that the photograph is damaged in some way. So we're going to fix that. Let's just zoom into that quickly and get the healing brush, make it slightly bigger. We're going to sample from this area and clone this section on top of this area here. But before that, what we want to do is we want to create a new layer, because that's where we want to make the changes. And just make sure current and below is selected, otherwise you will only be making a difference to this current layer and that doesn't really do anything. I'm going to sample from this section by Alt and clicking in this area and painting over the cracks. Let's just do another one here. That's about it, and we'll leave it at that, I think. The other thing I noticed is on my face there's a smudge. I'm not sure what that is, but we're going to fix that as well. So we're going to head over to the healing brush. Let's make the brush a bit smaller. You can either do that by right clicking and making the size smaller or bigger here. I personally like to use the bracket keys on my keyboard to make it smaller and bigger. It's a lot more convenient. So let's hit Alt and click in this area to sample from here and brush to make sure that we've got rid of the smudge. So let's go to the before and after. That's better. This is just to give you a brief overview of the restoration process. We can actually spend a lot longer on an image like this. I'm just going to go to the before and after just to show you what we started off with. Here's the before and here's the after. Before and after. So this is the method I like to use if Photoshop didn't automatically correct the color cast. But now that I've done most of the work, what I'd like to do is I'd like to make a merge visible layer of everything I've already done. So let's just hit Control, Alt, Shift and E once again. And there we go, we've got a layer of everything that we've done below. With that done, let's go to Image, Auto Tone, and Image, Auto Contrast, which doesn't seem to have done much, and Image, Auto Color, which I don't really like, so I'm going to undo that. Let's just try one more thing. We're going to duplicate the background layer again and bring that right to the top, on top of everything. Let's bring the opacity down to right around 5. Let's do the before and after. That's the before, that's the after. It's brought back a little bit of the orange gradient to make the image more uniform. So what I've done now is I've actually gone and put the original image that had WhatsApped across to me on top of what we've just done. Let's go and see the before and after. That's the before, that's the after. Let's just zoom into my face. That's the before, that's the after. One more time, before and after. So that's it for this video tutorial, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one, and if you have any questions, do drop them in the comments below, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one.